It wasn't just I felt like I was hiding a part of myself. I felt like I was hiding every single thing.
You don't know how many nights I went to bed crying myself to sleep, praying to be made normal.
It forced me to see things from an early perspective. The fact that people won't accept me for being gay.
Being gay is already the slight. You're black and gay, it's like a double-edged sword.
Why would you have hate for this person you don't even know?
Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere.
I'm from Augusta, Georgia. It was 6 of us, 6 kids. We didn't have all the things, you know what I'm saying, that would have made, I guess, life a little bit easier. After I was older and, was able to see some of the things outside of like that bubble, I realized like, damn, we missed out on a whole lot. I thought I was going to escape a lot of things by joining the military. I thought I was going to escape, just a mindset of Georgia, being in the South. It's really a culture.
I grew up in Denver and I am 52. I know, right? Okay. The way I express myself most often is through song. Whether I'm happy, I'll sing from like, oh my God, Parnell is always singing. And it wasn't until like about 6th grade when I got in all-city choir that I really embraced singing in public. And I remember I sang Denise Williams' That's What Friends Are For. Thinking about you, and maybe in a special way, I can show you how I need. I forget the words. Cut. Let's take that. Don't use that one. Getting onto Greenleaf was a huge opportunity because it's the first time on film that I've had an opportunity to act and sing.
I am from Fresno, California. I attended California State University, Northridge, and I didn't plan on joining a fraternity ever. That wasn't really on my agenda. I met with a representative of this fraternity, Phi Delta Theta. I became president for 2 years, back to back. First gay black president of my fraternity. And my fraternity is my second family.
Tell me about your mom.
My mom, very strong woman. She raised all of us pretty much by herself. I've always looked at her as having this sort of strength that I've drawn from. She's never been able to read or write, So there would be times where she would have me read like the paperwork and things like that so that, she could know what, she was signing or know what she was buying or something like that. I watched her do a lot of things to provide for us. Like she would go days without eating so that we could.
My mother is a history maker. She worked with the sheriff's department in Denver and became the first black female captain in the sheriff's department. We were very much, mom, dad, 2 kids, a dog. Our fence wasn't picket, but that was my very middle-class suburban childhood experience.
My mom, she's very strong, caring. She's a hard worker, but she's very tough. And she'll tell you how it is, just to give you truth.
I don't know if you remember the show, it's called Donahue. It was a talk show. This is before Oprah. And so, Donahue was playing on TV, and there was this episode about parents who disown their kids for being gay.
I remember calling my mom one day. It's like, wow, Mom, remember when we used to see the transgender people on Phil Donahue? And like, oh, they just confused. They don't know.
And, this whole exchange is going on TV about, these parents who disown their kids and stuff like that. And you got the crowd out there and they're just like cheering about it like it's okay. And then my mother goes, well, yeah, that's right. If any of mine come home, they can forget about ever living here, And I was like, what? It was crazy to think this because I was pretty young, but hearing her say that, right? It all of a sudden made sense to me that she was talking about me. And I got really scared, it just scared me. And for years, I just knew, I can't ever talk about any of this stuff because I would never be able to, be with my mom.
My mom had said something to me about, a mother knows her children. And I thought that was her way of telling me that she knew. So I wrote a letter. I was always writing. I wrote her a letter and just like, well, this is what's going on, blah, 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 blah. And I had moved out just in case things went bad, and she was like, so you think you're gay? I was like, no, Mom, I don't think. I'm really pretty sure. She asked me, she's like, so is that why you moved out? And I was like, well, I figured just in case. She's like, no, I'm not that kind of. I never understand parents who throw their kids out at the time that they need them the most.
When I first came out to my mother, it was one of those situations where I felt like I had to do it because I was in such a bad place. I went into the Navy 22 days after I graduated high school. I think it was the year before they implemented the don't ask, don't tell, don't pursue policy. When I got in there, they hadn't even changed the paperwork where they asked the question if you were gay or not. They just one-lined it. It wasn't just I felt like I was hiding a part of myself. I felt like I was hiding every single thing. I never really said the words like, Mom, I'm gay. I never did that, right? I was just sitting on the phone and I was telling her, I said, look, I got to talk to you about some stuff and, I don't know how you're going to feel about it. And I'm in Fort Lauderdale sitting in a payphone booth and I'm just crying my eyes out. And she was like, listen, I know, don't worry about it. You go out to sea, you do what you got to do, do your job. Everything's fine. It really felt like she was hugging me through the phone. That's really how it felt.
I know not everybody has a family that is affirming. There are people whose families never reconcile their truth with their ideal of who that person is.
My mom reacted very negative when I told her I was gay. Actually, I didn't even want to tell her I was gay. She forced it out of me. I was 19. I was a freshman in college. At the time, I was living with my grandparents. My grandparents raised me. And she tested me, are you gay? I'm like, we could just talk about it later. And that doesn't do well for her. She keeps texting me, she keeps calling me, and I finally answer, and I say yes. She says, you're not my son. I don't want to talk to you. You don't exist. I don't want to have a relationship with you. When my mother tried to disown me, I felt lost. Like, what do you... What do you tell your 19-year-old son, fresh into college, trying to figure out themselves, trying to create a lifestyle, a new world for themselves? What do you tell them? Oh, you're not my son because you're gay? That's not good enough. Being forced out was not the right time. Like, it forced me to, see things from an early perspective of being 19, of being the fact that people won't accept me for being gay. That's just one obstacle. I'm tacking on 2, gay and black. That's 2 obstacles already.
Being gay is already, like the slight, right? You're black and gay. People don't realize it's like a double-edged sword. Right? You can't get away from, getting sliced.
I'm Jewel Tice Williams, the former owner of the Catch One. I was not supposed to, even to my people, succeed. It was just feelings that folks had about what we could do and what we could not do. So we had that internal hierarchy of discrimination and that amongst our people. So I've been used to being turned around and without reason.
I feel like people have so much more to offer than the way they look or the way that, their lives are being lived. And it's like, you know what? You're not hurting anybody else. Live your life and be free to do that.
Why have hate on the next person? For what? Their lifestyle is completely different from yours. Their path is completely different from yours. Why would you have hate for this person you don't even know?
When I grew up, I was taught to think lesser of someone who is significantly different.
I do love the Black community. I love the Black community for everything it has to offer. We are so rich in people, our culture, our skin, our history. But my community fails major time because we don't support each other.
For instance, I'm from Virginia, and homophobia there, especially in a southern environment, is a lot more present than it is in California. It's very liberal.
We're kind of taught to be judgmental of something that's different, or someone who is different, or, something that they do is not the norm.
I do feel like in the Black community, we tend to be a little bit more judgmental of each other and critical of each other.
I feel more scrutinized by the Black community than society, for the main reason, the fact that being in the Black community, I can't quite be myself. I don't want to deal with the extraness of people staring at me, the extraness of people saying that I walk different because I have a switch. Being gay and Black and trying to be accepted in your own community is the hardest obstacle I have yet to master.
I feel like it's hard enough to be Black. Us as, a Black culture and in our community, we need to do everything to support one another, you know what I mean? And so I think, even more so is also remember that, we have something in common, and we need to always keep that in mind.
Because there's so much in the media and in the way we talk to each other and the things that we say to each other, our kids, the way we raise them, that it kind of seeps into our culture and it just stays there. And maybe we do that because, we have somehow felt slighted throughout the years, and this is not the way that we can do it.
A lot of what is presented by Black males in particular in this culture is really made up. And it's really a survival mechanism, and it's really just trying to understand who we are in a system that was never really built for us in the first place.
I feel like the Black community has a lot of homophobic views just because of the way they came up in the church. I feel like religion had a lot to do with that, right? That was the hallmark. That was the thing that Black people could just lean on. We took an interpretation of Bible verses and taught in a way that wasn't what God intended.
When I moved to LA and I started going to Unity Fellowship Church, which was the first gay affirming church that I'd ever been to. It was predominantly made of Black, gay, and lesbian, trans people in the community who were hearing for the first time, God is love and love is for everyone. The Bible is supposed to be used to free people, not to keep them in bondage. And which I think is what changed the whole marriage equality argument when it started being framed in what's wrong with love? What is wrong with two people falling in love and marrying each other? I remember when I saw marriage equality become legal here in the U.S., my husband and I were like, wow, not just California, in a few states, anywhere we go in this country now, nobody can question our relationship. Should anything, God forbid, happen to either one of us, nobody can keep us out of the emergency room. Nobody can deny us visitation rights because they would be violating our rights.
I would not permit in this congregation two people of the same sex marrying in this church. I don't support the idea of homosexuality. I don't think that's in line with family values and that type of thing. I'm basically Bible believing in that respect. I'm accepting of anybody, who come to the church. I certainly would critique, what they advocate. If a person comes advocating gay marriage, I would critique that. That's not something that God establishes.
I appreciate the belief in something. I believe that there is more out there than we know, but I don't believe separating and shunning people who don't walk that same path. Well, I think which is the difference between spirituality and religion. All that stuff of making people feel bad about who they are, there's no God in that. You can't say God is love and then do that to somebody.
Whenever you see a Black preacher, he's talking to, somebody in his congregation that's obviously gay, and he's putting that person down in front of the congregation. How are you teaching your congregation to love each other? You're teaching hate.
I want to be somewhere that is accepting and affirming of who I am. Church is supposed to be for everybody to come and feel loved and affirmed and accepted, not shunned because they're not living up to this quote unquote image that somebody thousands of years ago said this is how you have to be.
The Bible does not support homosexual behavior. And so it's one thing to hate sin, it's another thing to hate the sinner. God doesn't hate sinners. He hates sin. And many people in the religious community does not make a distinction between one's behavior and one's choices.
It is no way in hell there's a choice to be gay. I truly believe it's I don't want to say it's God made, but it's God made. We're human, right? And who created humans? God. It's God made. We tend to fall in love with people. I love you because you're beautiful inside and out. I love you because you make me happy. I love you because you make me smile. Being gay is not a choice. It's a feeling.
Nobody just wakes up. Did you choose to be straight? Did you even choose to be male or female? Did you choose to be whatever ethnicity you are? You choose to discriminate. You choose hate over love and acceptance.
I don't think that people are born gay. I don't think there's any evidence ever been produced, that gayness is in the genes, that orientation is developed early.
There's no way that I would choose a life you get ridiculed for, or, people try to withhold, things or rights from you for. I just think it's dumb to even think that people would make a choice like that.
I believe that gay people are children of God. All human beings, pedophiles, it doesn't matter. All human beings are children of God. That doesn't necessarily mean that God approves of their choices or their behavior.
I remember being afraid to get baptized because I'm like, oh no, because you got to be perfect. And so I stalled for the longest time. And then I finally went ahead and I got baptized, and I was like, oh, okay. Oh, he's cute. I was like, okay, well, that didn't change. So when people say, oh, you just make the choice, I'm like, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about, because you don't know how many nights I went to bed crying myself to sleep, praying to be made normal. And it was, it was rough. That was rough. And I think that is the thing that kind of made me more determined to be strong in who I am now, because I still, I still remember that kid. I still remember that teenager crying to be normal, crying not to be different, and yeah. I haven't really thought about it a lot. So having to go back there and remember that. And I did. I spent a lot of nights crying. And especially after I thought, baptism will fix it. Oh, that'll fix it. I've been that kid praying for God to fix me. And when that change didn't happen, that's when it came to a point of just like, okay, I have been praying and crying and praying and crying. It's not changing. So this must be it. You guys keep telling me that God knows who I am from even before I was born. So, wow. Apparently this is it. And yeah. And then when I hear about these young kids taking their life because they're being bullied at school, and it's in 2018, and it's heartbreaking. People think, oh, you're just being kids. Oh, they're just joking. It's like, you don't know what that feels like to have somebody
You want to cut, Parnell?
Yeah.
Yeah? Let's cut.
Thank you.
And let's grab him the paper towel right there.
Last year, 2017, my brother was murdered. Terry accepted me the first. When he found out, he said he knew. I didn't know he knew. But it didn't bother him. Because of his death, I have to live more truthful to myself.
Living your truth. And find a place where you feel safe. Somebody that you feel safe with, that you can let your hair down. I think a lot of people who have gone through a lot of dramas because they had no safe space to go where they could really be themselves.
It's a lot to deal with. It's a lot to worry if your family will accept you. It's a lot to know if your friends will accept you. It's a lot just to go about the normal day-to-day things. So they have to be patient and they have to accept themselves first in order for them to persevere, just to live a normal life.
Freedom means living. The ability to live openly and honestly and be in your truth. To me, that's the purest definition of freedom.
When you accept yourself for who you are inside and you don't let your sexual orientation get in the way, you don't let your race, your color, or any other things that people have said to you, done to you, get in the way, but to truly accept yourself, it's the greatest blessing of all. And I learned that because of my brother's death.
The feeling that I have is live your life and be free to do that.
My choice is to live my life and be happy.
I chose to accept who I am. That's the choice. I'm hoping that people will see this film and will make the choice to think differently.